Good morning, children. Once again, I welcome you in History Online class, and I hope you all are safe and studying at home. Now, as we are doing chapter 9, and in this we had seen up to the previous topic that how there was a formation of Marshall Plan and Truman Doctrine, and in reply of Marshall Plan and Truman Doctrine, how Russian authorities had introduced Molotov Plan in reply of the economic policies of USA, because the conflict had been taken place between USA and USSR, and this conflict had taken place as a Cold War. And the main reason we had also seen that between the two superpowers, the reason of the Cold War was first the communism and the democracy. That America wanted to set up democracy and democratic institutions, whereas USSR believed in communism, and it was trying to capture more and more countries under the influence of communism. And we had also seen that how European recovery program was launched. According to this, USA had taken up the pledge that America is going to protect more and more country from the aggression of communism, and the countries especially who got recent independence and financially they are weak, so the financial support would be given by America to those countries so they can preserve their independence. But we had seen the relationship between USA and USSR became worsened when the more doubts, the more policies which were not liked by both the power blocks, and it spoiled the relation further. Ultimately, both the countries were indulged in forming joint armies, military alliances, and today we will see that which type of alliances were formed. And it was not only formed by singly, either by the USA or USSR, but the countries who were under the influence of USA, they all joined together and they formed a joint army, which is known as North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And the countries which were under the influence of Russia, they were also joined and they formed their own military alliance, which was known as Warsaw Pact. So now today we have to see about the Berlin blockade. That Berlin was the city mainly which was in the eastern Russia, eastern Germany. And we have to see that how the Western powers had decided that Germany and Berlin both should be divided among the four Western powers. And which were those four Western powers? I am writing here. They were UK, USA, right? USSR and France. So it was decided after the Second World War. So what had happened that these these three zones, they were under the Western powers, and USSR did not want to be a part of this time the Western part, because already the Cold War had been taken place. So here it said that Germany's three zones, Berlin's three zones which were under the control of UK, USSR, and France. They were economically prosper because they were getting financial help, financial support from whom? From the Western powers. But Russia rejected. Russia refused to take help from the Western powers. So as a result, what had happened? That three zones of Germany and Berlin were may prosper, economically sound comparatively to that particular zone which was under the influence of USSR. So a kind of a competition started among the people who were residing in Germany and Berlin and who were under the influence of different zones. So, when the offer was given through European Recovery European Community, it was not accepted by USSR. And when the problem started among the people who were living in Eastern Germany, or we can say the in the those zones which were under the control of three Western powers, comparatively which was under the control of USSR. So a kind of a competition started because there was financial problem, there was not the people condition were not very sound, and some kind of disturbance was started. So when USSR noticed that the kind of a competition has been started among the people, so what it did, Stalin had taken up the prime, we can say step. He was the premier of USSR, so he blocked all kind of links, right, from Western Germany, which were under the control of the Western powers. So through rails, through railways, through rivers, all kind of blockade was made by USSR through Stalin, right? So all kind of supplies which were provided from one place to another place, it was blocked. It was stopped by whom? By USSR. But still, the Western powers, especially USA and UK, they decided to provide especially the food items to those places, to those cities where the blockade has been made by USSR. And it continued. But still, USSR did not withdraw the blockade in spite of giving instructions by USA. As a result, the situation became worse because USSR realized that whatever step I'm taking, it is highly objected, or we can say controlled by whom? By America, England, and France. Especially even when blockade was made, that also the food items were supplied through air help to those places, to those people who were under the blockade. So the condition became worse and the situation arose when USSR decided to form its own army and NATO. The main second point is the formation of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was set up in 1949, and all the countries which were on the support of USA or the Western powers, they all joined and they signed a treaty, and it was decided in NATO that not only to the other countries, but among all of us, if we would be attacked by USSR, means if any attack or any uh, kind of invasion would be made by USSR on any of us, so collectively we will face the aggression or invasion. Means signing up of NATO terms and conditions or the formation of NATO was not uh, only a decision of USA, but it was a collective effort of all those countries which were with democratic countries or who believed in the democracy. So in this way, NATO organization was formed. Then what had happened when NATO organization was formed? So Thaw entered. Here it is written Thaw in the Cold War. Cold War situation was not good. There was disagreement. There was not any kind of we can say the mm, atmosphere of agreements or acceptance of each other opinion. Rather they were just going worse time to time. Their doubts, their suspicions, their distrust was rising up. So the situation came up to that limit that they were forced, who both the power bloc, they were forced to form their own military alliances. But somehow during this period, Stalin died, and after Stalin, many more leaders came up in USSR who believe in thaw. So thaw had taken place in Cold War. What is thaw? What is meant by thaw? To make something soft, to make the relation some soft relationship. Now, so with this thaw, when thaw entered in Cold War, the relationships started improving between the countries which were under the influence of USA and USSR, because the leaders of USSR who took up the charge after Stalin were more far-sighted, and they believed that if the situation will not be controlled, if there won't be any kind of international peace, so there will be a kind of a nuclear war, because both the military alliances NATO and Warsaw Pact were busy in manufacturing more and more nuclear weapons, which could be a danger to the international peace. So with this aim, the condition started improving, especially the credit goes to McCarthy, and he was a very wise, we can say, leader of USSR who really brought a powerful thought or powerful understanding between the leaders of America and USSR. And what had happened, one treaty was signed, especially based on Austria, and this treaty, this part was under the zone of Russia, right? So, what had happened? One treaty was signed with Austrian state treaty in 1955 along with its capital Vienna, and it was because under the Russian zone, so it was having its own government. But when the treaty was signed, so it was decided that Austria should be made independent. Austria should be given independence, and automatically when independence would be given, the automatically democracy would be set up and the people will get freedom. So what had happened after signing the Austrian treaty, this Russia, who stationed its army, its troops in the zone of Austria, even in the capital Vienna, its capital Vienna, removed, right? when after the Treaty of Austria, and when the troops were removed by Russia, automatically Austria became an independent country and it got independence from where from Russian zone. Why? Because Russia also had some kind of fear that USA is keep on giving help, financial help, other help also to the people who were living in Western Germany. So it won't happen that Western Germany and Western Austria, they both could merge. So it is better instead that Austria should go in the zone of USSR. It's better the our army should be removed and it should be declared as an independent country. So in this way, we had seen today that how the Berlin blockade, which was made by USSR, was not successful because though the blockade was made, but how America and its satellite countries supported those countries which were under the blockade, and through air the supplies were provided to the people. And the situation also became worse when both the countries, NATO by USA and Warsaw Pact by USSR, were formed to protect each other, because both of them had a fear that any time if situation became worse they might attack. But the wise step was taken by the Russian leaders, political leaders, after the death of Stalin, that if there would be any kind of war, that would be a nuclear war, which is not good for the mankind. And so it is better that instead of going deep in the war relationship, we should maintain our relations with. So they brought thaw in the Cold War and the situation became better and the relationship also improved. But many leaders also given up this chance that if we are making our relations better, it doesn't mean that we are going to obey, yeah, we are going to follow the lines of the Western powers. It's not like that. Only we want to maintain international peace and we want to maintain the good relationships between the country. That's why we are introducing thaw in the Cold War. So this was the chapter, and next time in my next lesson I will take up the coming topics which are also related with the other topics, especially based on Berlin and how the other wars had been taken place, because Russia was time to time playing a trick against the Western powers and how it was controlled. And moreover, the new leaders came up with new thinking to stop the Cold War. That's all for today. Thank you.